Today we're going to be talking about signings, which we hope they're all Hecky's picks. And what number, Ollie, are we on? Is it episode number 6?
I mean, I didn't mind it. I love the rhyme. I love that we're committed. It's an interesting opener.
6 is hard. 7's going to be even harder.
Don't forget to watch this. We're a couple of. This is episode number 6. But
Yeah, I did
risque,
think about the D
risque.
word. So, this is actually the first podcast, well, in about a month, really.
Yeah, it's been a while. Did we do one after Palace, or was it even before that?
I don't know. I think it was after Palace. Because I was going through the transfers and who we spoke about last time, which was Gus Harmer, and he was announced at Palace, I think.
Yes, he was shown on the pitch, weren't he? He came out and did his...
Yes, because then he played against Forest. Yeah. Why do we know that he played against Forest?
Because he scored a banger, and it's an absolute beaut. Loved it, yeah.
One of the best. One of the best. Almost Ollie Norwood at Brentford.
Oh, yeah, but...
Not quite.
Not quite. But, I mean, it weren't Ollie Norwood's debut at Brentford. It weren't in the Premier League.
No, it's true.
It weren't the first goal we'd scored of the season when I was starting to think we'd never score again.
Because we got 2 very, very inexperienced strikers playing up front.
Yeah, when I saw Rasula and Traore, who I think actually, to be fair to them, have done as well as can be expected of either of them for the start of the season. Yeah. No complaints at all. But yeah, I can't imagine that at Forest I was sat here thinking, oh, we're going to have loads of goals in this team. So it's nice to see Gus bang one in, even if it didn't mean anything in the end.
Yeah, that is true. But it did a little bit because it gave us a little bit more confidence because I was certainly more confident after that game.
No, I completely agree, to be fair. I think that's the story of the season, isn't it? If you follow the games, I think I was completely desolate after Crystal Palace, more confident after Forest, a lot more confident after Man City, and we got a point against Everton. So am I more positive? Am I less positive? We've got more points, and therefore that'll do.
Exactly. And actually, we scored 2 goals against Everton, which at the start of the season, I thought that we were going to be winning games 1-0 like we did under Chris Wilder. But scoring 2 goals and being 1-0 down and then coming back and being 2-1 up at half time, it was just never expected.
No, it's not something we do very often. Obviously, the big reason for positivity is Cameron Archer, who looks outstanding, was fantastic in the game against Everton. I thought, generally speaking, his link-up play wasn't particularly strong. I didn't think he was involved in the game, but you do not have to be if you have 2 finishes like that. I know the second one, it's the post, and then has a real comedy own goal element to it. Things you'll love to see. That is 100%. Anybody who used to play 5-a-side at the academy in Dronfield, that would happen twice a game, every single game. And of course, anybody who plays at goals, I think the nets are a bit more offset, so you don't get it quite as much. But it's always fun when you get one of them. It feels like a quintessential 5-a-side goal to concede. So that was good to see at the very least.
Yeah, it was. And the thing is, even though you're saying that it was lucky and stuff, it was, but at the same time, like, you make your own luck. Like, it was a great move to get it up to him. And then it was a great strike, whether it hits the post, whether it goes wide, whether it goes in the bottom corner. It was a great strike, and he did really well to push it away from the defender and not let the defender get any sort of contact on a block or something like that. So, yeah, he had a really, really good first game. However, obviously, neither of them are match fit, him and Ollie Mack. So I felt Ollie Mack put everything into that game.
How good were Ollie Mack? Like, I know there were people who were a bit frustrated that it didn't go in at end, but that's a fantastic save from people. But I thought Ollie Mack was absolutely outstanding. He ran himself into the ground. He was awesome. Yeah, he deserved the goal to have that moment at the end. I'm still a bit speechless about it. I don't know how it's not gone in.
Same, and especially the kind of rebound as well, because he got lucky massively, didn't he, Pickford? He got lucky with that, hitting his face, hitting his hands, and then hitting the post.
Yeah, one bounces off back of his head and goes in, and one bounces off side of his face and it's the post. I mean, you suppose you have to say that it's 1-for-1, it's balanced itself out, but in 97th minute or whatever it were, you do think, oh, we just needed that little bit of luck, didn't we? So close.
We did. We probably didn't deserve it
No,
on the whole because I
we
think
didn't.
Everton were probably the better team, especially in the second half. We didn't really offer much going forward in the second half. A few
Yeah,
bits and bobs,
it's
no really big chances though.
it's a difficult one because I think you're right. I think I would say that over the game, draw was probably the fair result. Everton certainly seemed to control more of the game, particularly in the second half where we'd really struggled to get through them. But when I look back on it, Pickford's made two, three, four really good saves throughout the 90 minutes. I can't think of any that Wes has made.
No, it's true. It's true. I was thinking exactly the same. It's one of them where like we are blades,
Yeah.
so every time they go anywhere near our box, we're thinking this is going to be a
Oh god.
goal. You
Oh
just
god.
do, don't you? Every time they were getting free kicks outside the box, it's like I've seen Ashley Young score from here before.
Yeah, every time. Woman
But
in front of me
the thing was,
screamed.
he's not scored a goal like that in probably 10, 15 years or something like that.
Yeah, but I remember him doing it once. But yeah, like I say, woman in front of me screams when other team are running towards our goal. And so they get the ball. They're not even anywhere near net. It's not a chance. And you ah! And honestly, it's all time. I absolutely love her. She's fantastic. It's great. We've been sat there for about 50, probably all my life, actually. I think I've always sat there. So what, 25 years, something like that. And
Yeah.
it's always been the same, and I love it. But it does increase that in anxiety. They're running on goal. You hear the scream, and you're like, "Oh God, it's coming."
Does it make watching United a bit better, actually?
It's a bit
More
it's
exciting?
fun. It makes it more
Yeah.
fun, I would say, because you have the moments of she screams, and then if nothing happens, everybody goes bit much, and you all have that tension breaker of like, yeah, that was a funny one.
Do people around you where you sit at Bramall Lane know that you do this channel?
Some of them, I think most of them do. I think particularly after I did the Sky thing with Wilder last year, I think a few of them
Yeah.
had seen that and then obviously had a bit of a conversation about it. Nobody really talks about it. Ever turns around and is like, "Oh, what are you doing today?" There's one or two people who have a bit of a chat, but yeah, I think if they know I do it, they keep it to themselves, and I think that works for everybody probably.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Cool. What you been up to then, mate?
Yeah, of course. We normally do the bit of banter at the start, and we've gone straight into United. Yeah, it's been a busy few weeks, really. Work has been busy. Obviously, people who don't know, I do work for a government department, and obviously we've had some schools that need some new concrete, and so it's been a really fun few days trying to manage and work on and look at that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that being done. What about yourself? New job going well?
New job going really well, mate. Really, really well. Social media manager. So,
Ooh.
oh, it's good. It's good. Enjoying it. New car. Fantastic. It feels like I'm driving to work on a cloud. It's that beautiful compared to what I was driving before.
Nice.
People won't know what I'm driving for. I might as well tell you now. I was driving an '08 plate Vectra, and it was like, oh god, it was horrible to drive. Drank petrol like it we're going out of fashion, and yeah, I've got a hybrid now, so no, it's just nice. I can plug my car in at home, drive to work. I think I have to probably put in like five. I probably drive 10 miles a day or use
Mm.
10 miles petrol a day because it charges up like 35 miles at home and then 35 miles at work, which I don't have to pay for at work. So yeah, it's going pretty well.
Nice. Yeah, I like how through that, everybody obviously will have been watching and listening to you. But if you're watching me, you will have seen the most polite, like, oh yeah, good one. Oh, nice. Because I know nothing about cars. Nick knows I don't drive. And so genuinely
Oh
through
yeah.
that entire conversation, you were like an '08 plate Vectra. And I was like, car, what colour is it? So I think if anybody goes back and watches
Black.
my face, you'll see the most generic, like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then that'll be the
That
trigger now going forwards when you can tell that I've completely zoned out of conversation. People will be able to know from my like, oh, tell me more. Ooh, interesting. What's that about?
Oh dear. Right. Shall we move on to the Sheffield United stuff then in that case?
Sheff United things. Yes, let's get into it.
Yeah. Do we have to 1 point from 4 games? Not
Yeah,
great, is it?
it's one of them though where 1 point from 4 games, and for some reason, I don't feel like broken by it. Like I thought if
Do you
we're
know
in the
why that
division,
is? Do you know why that is?
go on.
Because we are still not in the bottom three. after 4 games and only picking up 1 point. How is that even possible?
I don't know. You're right. That does help. I think if everybody else was
Because
like
there's
three,
other
four
teams that are
points,
just as rubbish.
yeah, everybody's had a bit of a shock. I think as well, the other thing for me is that almost wrote off the games up to Man City because I was like, well, they don't
Mm,
count. They're still preseason friendlies. We've not even got a team. So maybe it's that as well that's feeding into it and
yeah.
making me feel a bit more, oh, we've got a chance.
And the
So
fact
yeah,
that we've improved game on game.
that helps. Yeah, and obviously it's a really tough run when we come back from this international break. Like I was looking at the next 6 games, and I'm not exactly looking at them going, "Oh, there's loads of points available there." And so maybe at the next international break, if things don't go our way, you look back on this first 4 games and you're a lot more down on it than I am right now. But yeah, I think it's seeing the improvements, it's getting the new players in, seeing the impact that Harmer and the Archer have been able to have gives you that confidence. And I think that's why we're fans, at the end of a transfer window, you want to look at it and go, "Ooh, ain't that exciting?" And I'm still in that phase. I'm still in my little denial, everything's going to be all right phase.
I think we're always in that sort of phase because you've always got to be positive about your team. And I think that you look at our team on paper, we've put a good team together
Oh, yeah.
from what it was. However, our team on paper is one of the worst in the division. It's probably, I would say, certainly in the bottom three, if not bottom
19th.
two.
19th would
Yeah,
be my look at it, I think.
yeah. So at the end of the day, like I think that we look at it and think we've got some really good players. We've got a lot of heart in there. Um, we've got a lot of leaders. We've got a lot of players that have played together for a long time. Like the back five or
Yeah.
four of the back five played most of last season. So
Hmm.
that's good.
Yeah.
And we've obviously got the conductor in midfield still, which a lot of people aren't very happy about. But then we've obviously got Harmer, we've got Souza that we're all really excited about. And then we've got a very, very exciting striker. So let's see what happens because who knows? Like Cameron Archer could turn into, and I know he's a good player, but he's certainly still got to do the step up because he's not
Yeah.
experienced
No.
in the Premier League. So he could turn into an absolute little superstar. And I say little because he is really little. Isn't
He's littler than I remember him being. When we played against Borough last year and him and Akpom just bullied us to get them through, I could have sworn he was bigger than that. It came
he?
out and I was
But
like, "Did we sign Archer's little brother? Like, what's happened here?"
or his son.
Yeah, maybe we
It-
brought his son in to get up at centre forward. But you're right, he had a massive impact. He can shoot, he can finish. There's something really exciting about that. And I will say, I'm not here for putting any kind of disrespect on Ollie Norwood's name. Love the man
no,
and will forever love the man. And also think that our team doesn't work the same without him. I still don't know who in the squad right now replaces him. I know there's some talk that people want to see maybe Harmer move into the Norwood position and sit that little bit deeper. For me, that's not getting the best out of Harmer. That's not giving us what we want from the player we've signed there. Tom Davis is a different kind of player. He's not your sitting quarterback to pick out those passes. So for me, I still think Norwood has to be in that best 11, and I'd be picking him confidently and happily for at least the next few games to give people a chance to prove me wrong.
yeah. If we had Doyle, would you
That's
play
different.
him in front of Norwood? Yeah, because he clearly won
He
he
was by
won
the end of
Norwood's
last season.
position last season. Yeah,
Yeah, by the end of last season, Doyle had got himself ahead of him. Doyle's obviously got more legs in terms of sort of his age, in terms of his fitness level. Um, It'd be a difficult battle. I do think that Doyle probably would have taken that position if we'd signed him. I think he'd be starting in that role. But clearly, we prioritised other areas. We've brought in more of a destroyer in Souza. We've brought in that sort of forward-facing, a bit more attacking player who's a bit more dynamic in Hamer. And so I think we've prioritised around him. Get legs around Norwood, and he can still be as effective as ever.
yeah. It's
That's my
nice that we've signed a player that nobody knows what his name is because I call him Harmer. Most of the commentators call him Harmer. He calls himself Hamer, apparently. I feel like that can't be Hamer. Like, he's not English, so I can't see that being Hamer. I feel like he's done a Sanderberger and said, do you know what? Call me whatever you want. It's Burge if you want to be.
it's Burge.
Words.
Yeah, I agree, to be honest. It's a difficult one. Obviously, if he says it's Hamer, then it's clearly Hamer, and
You've
I
got to
need to
say it,
learn
yeah.
to correct myself so that when I'm saying Harmer, I need to know that it is Hamer and start to think about it a lot more than I do right now. But I don't know. I
I
think
still don't
maybe it's
think it
because we're
is.
Norman. No, we're Northern, aren't we?
It's
Harmer,
Harmer.
easy.
It is Harmer. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's Harmer. However, I don't know when this is going out, so I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler for the Simon Moore podcast because I've just about edited it. Hal asks him if it's Harmer or Hamer, and he goes, I say Hamer." So
Cheers,
there you go.
Si. Cheers.
Yeah, he didn't seem to have a clue, to be fair. But I think he was a bit taken aback because Hal, as he's asking him questions about his time at United, he just blurts out, "Do you say Harmer or Hamer?" And he was like, "Where's this come from?" He answers him, and then Hal just carries on talking about what he was talking about before. So it's like, okay, thanks for that.
Cheers for that. Just throwing it in the middle. I call him Gus.
Yeah. I think we should just call him Gus, to be fair.
I'd be
Be a lot
more than
easier.
happy just calling him Gus. That works for me. As long as he's happy
I
with
I
Gus.
call do you know what I do? A little insight into me watching Sheffield United from Bramall Lane,
Hmm?
from the South Stand, from Gangway C, if I'm going to be like that. I call most of the players by their first name, like I know them, like I'm best mates with them. Like
Yeah, I was.
Ollie McBurney is always Ollie. George is always George. An L is always an L. There's a different
Yeah,
reason why he's an L.
yeah.
I don't. It's weird because I don't call John Egan John.
No, never.
I don't know why, but it just doesn't sound right, does it?
I call no, it done. I'm similar to you. I do a lot of first names, and I was part of. There was a really big debate going in one of my group chats about this, and people were like, "Can't believe when they call them first names," and I'm like, why? Because it's easier to say than Ahmed Odzic. You know what I mean? I'm going to call him an
Yeah.
L. I'm bad for the one that I always do is whenever he makes a save, I go on, Wesley. And I always
I
call him
do.
Wesley. Don't know why. I just get proper like, yeah, Wesley. And so you've got to enjoy the moments. You've got to really
I'm
dig in. But yeah, I'm
I'm
bad
pretty
for
sure.
Wesley.
Yeah.
McBurney, I don't call him, I call Ollie Mack. Every time we do Ollie Mack, go on, Ollie Mack.
Yeah.
You
I
get right
call
into
Jaden
it.
Bogan. I call Jaden Bogle Jaden.
I call him
Like,
Bogues.
nice,
Go
nice.
on, Bogues.
This could be a podcast on its own.
It
This.
could. What do you? Right, come on, let's get into it. What did you used to call Enda Stevens? Because I used to call him Edna proudly every single
Ah,
time. Go on, Edna.
very good. Should I think who else? Vinny. I call Vinny Souza Vinny. I
Yeah, I
might
do.
call Harmer Gus when I'm at the
Gus.
match. When I'm talking about him on here, I say the surname. But like when I'm there,
Oh, when I'm
I'm
with them. Yeah,
invested.
you know what I mean. You're
Go
all
on,
together, aren't you?
Gus.
I'm in there with
Yeah.
them. You know what I mean? Come on, lads. Go on, Gus. We've got this,
Cameron.
boys.
Are we, that doesn't sound right.
Cam. Go on,
Would you call
Cam.
him Cam?
Go on, Cam.
Cam.
Go on, Cam. Depends what you're doing, doesn't
Anyway,
it? And also,
let's.
it depends if they've let you down. There's always a real moment of like, oh, Wes. You know what I mean? You get that like,
Yeah,
oh, what have you? Oh, Jackie, what have you
Fotheringham's too
done?
long to say, so you're always gonna call him Wes.
Yeah. Oh wait, as short as possible. Apart from John, who has to be Eags, and don't know why. Just
Yeah,
does.
Eags. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Eags.
What if Fotheringham was John Fotheringham? Because would you call him anything?
No, go on, keeper. Come on,
What
keeper.
is he? 18? Go on,
Yeah,
18.
go on, 18. What's 18 doing
That's.
out there?
I'd love to ask him why he's number 18. There's got to be a reason for it, but it's not a goalkeeper number. I would say
No.
113-23.
Ooh, I'm gonna say 21. Don't know why. 113-21.
Why?
No idea. Football manager, probably. It's my
If you
rule
just
for
said
everything.
24, if you said 24 because it goes one, no, that's adding 12. Be 20.
5.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
25.
25. Thank you, mate.
It's
Thank you, mate.
easy
Let's move on.
maths. This 12. So
Now,
you plus 10, then you count 2.
I was talking and thinking at the same time. I'm not very good at
It's always
multitasking.
been a problem for you, as anyone who's watched the
Oh.
podcast knows.
Right, the last podcast that we did, we spoke about Harmer, Hamer, Gus versus Sander. So we're going to talk about transfers from then onwards.
Yes.
So let's get into it. So first, Tom Davis. What is going on with Tom Davis? Because Heck is saying he's giving him a preseason, right?
Mm.
Why would you sign somebody who is nowhere near up to speed? And from what I've heard, it sounds like we signed Tom Davis instead of bringing in another loan. So the loan that we would have brought in, we've used the wages for Tom Davis. Now, don't get me wrong, he's young, he fits the profile, he's got Premier League experience, everything, all boxes tick, 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 except for not being fit. And the thing is, we could be 2/3 into the season before he's fit enough to play. We need to be signing players for this survival battle. So why have we signed him?
There's, for me, two things. So I understand that as a player, fantastic, no question marks about the signing. Think it's right
Hmm.
to have brought him in. Think he really does add to the squad and will have a really significant impact for us going forward because I think he's very good. Cover that out of the way. Second half of this, and I cannot make it make sense. I've been talking about it for what feels like 3 months because I cannot make it make sense in my head. He was a free agent. He wasn't like at another club and just not training. He was a free
Hmm.
agent. We didn't bring him in on trial to get him training with the lads. We could have had him in Portugal. He could have been on
Yeah.
trial with us in Portugal. There was nothing stopping that happening apart from us saying, well, we'll just not offer him a trial. Unless I'm wrong and there's something I've missed. But I think he was training with Bristol Rovers. So I think he would have jumped at the chance to come and train with us and to go on tour and trial
Bristol
and everything with
Rovers.
us. And so I just can't understand why we haven't had him in doing preseason. We should not be 6, 8 weeks behind on his prep. He was a free agent. Get him in, get him doing preseason, get him signed then. It just don't make sense to me why we waited so long. I can't get my head around why it took us so long to bring him in with no preseason.
Yeah, I don't want to give Hecky any of the stick either.
No,
Like, we
don't think
don't
it's his fault.
know. I don't really want to blame anyone. There's no point in putting blame to anything, but something's gone wrong. Something's
Somewhere.
happened somewhere. And I think as well, I'm going to bring this up now. It's not to do with Tom Davis, but I wonder what's happened with the signing of Yasser Larouci because Hecky doesn't seem to trust him. I'm very, very surprised that he actually started against Everton. I thought that Luke Thomas was going to come straight in
Yeah.
because it seemed like he doesn't trust him. We need to bring someone in quick. And Luke Thomas will play from now on, in my opinion, because one, obviously got injured,
Hmm.
but two, again, he wasn't very good in the last game, especially defensively. He looks like a fish out of water. So I wonder who's scouting him, who said he's really good, why we haven't looked at him properly, because he might have a really good career. He might. But right now, he is nowhere near the level for me. And then Slimani as well, because I don't know what's happened with Slimani because I think we all expected him to start the first game of the season. We thought he was kind of one of those that we brought in early on, and he is a ready-made starter. Yeah, he might not be he's up to speed with the English game, he's inexperienced, but I think we all thought he was going to play right hand side of kind of
Hmm.
central midfield, being someone who's going to push on. He scored a goal in preseason as well. Some games he looked good, some games not so much. He might have picked up an injury or two. I don't know,
Hmm.
but I don't know what's going on. Because
No,
the thing
I
is, as
think
well, against Lincoln, he was on the bench, but Hecky didn't bring him on and decided to bring loads of youngsters on and said, well, that just happens, doesn't it, sometimes? I don't get it.
don't talk about Lincoln because you'll give me like a Vietnam flashback. I'll be in corner like rocking because honestly, I should have been going to watch Trivium. Instead, I decided no, let's go to Bramall Lane and watch United because this will be fun. And it was genuinely the worst 90 minutes of football. If I even, I feel like it's an insult to refer to it as football. It was awful, just an awful 90 plus minutes of whatever went on. So there, we'll not go into that in too much detail. In
Can,
terms of the
can I
signings,
just say one thing before we move on? Because this is in regards to what you were just talking about then, and obviously going to talk about Slimani. I like to go to these matches because you get to see players that you don't normally get to see. They're getting minutes, they're
yeah.
getting up to speed, and it's exciting. I remember West Brom last season in the Cup when we lost away from home. I was excited to see McAtee,
Mm,
but the problem is that these players have never played together, or they've played together very little. A lot of them are off the pace. So you think you're going to see, oh, I'm really excited to see these players, and they don't
Maybe not.
play anywhere near the level that they would do if they were playing a league game.
No, that is true and that is fair, but it all added up to a really, really terrible Wednesday night. An absolute shocker. But you are right, and we shouldn't judge them too harshly based on that 90 minutes. They should be given the opportunity to sort of show themselves a little bit more and given more chances. In terms of the signings, I think I'll start with Slimani. I think he probably has been injured. I think that's probably why we've not seen him. I am very shocked, though. I expected him to start against Palace. I expected him to be competing for a start in every other game. I'm really shocked that we've not seen him coming off the bench or doing anything at all. So yeah, I don't understand that one. Larouche, it's 3 or 4 games in it. It's three or
I
four
know.
games. He's not massively impressed, but I think we have seen in areas things that he can do well. You know, he's quite good at trying to nip in to pull up the interception to try and then spark a break. He's going to try and do that. He's going to be a front foot proactive defender. That is going to leave us exposed down his wing. We're experiencing lots of problems coming down the left hand side, be that crosses into the box, be that players beating their man and being able to run in on goal. And so there are real issues coming down that side. And so, no, you're right. He's not really shown that he's at the level yet. But I think there are still bright spots that show that maybe with time he will be able to develop into it. So I don't want to write him off. Don't want
No.
him to become a scapegoat or anything like that, because I know that is something that happens quite a lot. But no, he's not been good enough yet. But I still think he's got the chance of being better. And you're going to challenge me on the use of the term scapegoat, and we're going to fight over Facebook or whatever this is on against each other, taking it down blow for blow. Ollie and Nick go at it. We've got the tagline already.
I, right, yeah, I agree to a certain extent that some players are scapegoated, but at the same time, I think it's a bit of a lazy term. When somebody hasn't played well, or hasn't played well for a few games, or makes a lot of mistakes, you should be allowed to criticize players. And
Agreed.
I think that sometimes when we criticize players and it's the same player who's had a couple of poor games, then straight away everyone's like scapegoat, scapegoat. It's an easy thing to just say. And I understand there are some players that are used as scapegoats. I don't necessarily think that he is been used as a scapegoat. I just think that he's come maybe a little bit of unjust criticism because he's young, he's very inexperienced. He's just got relegated from the French division in with Troyes or however you say it. That's probably not how you say it. So he's obviously not going to be full of confidence coming into the biggest and greatest league in the world, and he's playing with a group of players that are inexperienced, or a lot of them are inexperienced Premier League players, and we've just got promoted ourselves. So we're obviously going to be cannon fodder for a lot of teams, possibly, or other teams will think that. I don't think we will be for most of the season. I think we'll put up really, really good performances everywhere we go, really strong performances. But yeah, I just think that scapegoats used a bit too much, in my opinion.
I get that, and I think that's fair. I think for me, there's a couple of areas where I think it does come around to that point. I think obviously the game against Man City, he does make a mistake. Let's not say he doesn't. That's clearly the point. But I think, as a young player coming into that environment against Man City, when you're defending constantly, some of the blame being apportioned to him is a little bit harsh. I think, when you're
It's because it
United,
was the winning goal
it's because it
so
was the
late
winning goal.
on, and it was a shocker, a real, real shocker as well.
It
It's not like
was.
he's just not tracked his man and he's lost a bit of concentration. He's
It's
I
decision
don't know
making.
what he's done. I don't know what he did.
Decision making,
Anyway,
isn't it? And knowing when
yeah.
to and when not to try and play the ball. You want to be just putting it out or getting rid. And you make those mistakes, and it comes down to decision making. But I think decision making comes with time and it comes with confidence. And hopefully it's something that he's learning from and picking up on. I think it's probably a preemptive statement of scapegoating in that I didn't think against Everton. I don't think he was great, but I don't think he was a disaster. I don't think there were
No.
significant issues with his performance. I saw some people giving him like a 1 out of 10 on Twitter, and it's that kind of
Yeah.
thing of like, well, no, let's just put some perspective. He wasn't terrible here. He wasn't our best player, but he wasn't awful. He was still contributing, still doing part of the job. I think Thomas takes his place. I think Thomas looked a lot better when he came on. Let's not pretend otherwise. He does look like a player who is more ready for the level, got more experience in the Premier League. I just think it's key that we don't, this season in particular, try not to turn on anyone, because there's going to be a lot of bad days. You're going to lose a lot. People are going to make mistakes. We need to not just finish them for it, and that's the difficulty. But
I think the thing is as well, when you're saying about scapegoating, I understand it a little bit when I think the two goals that happened, yet I don't get, right, I don't want to assign blame, and keep saying this, but both goals, George had a big hand in letting happen.
yes,
And nobody's talked about it at all, other than me. I mentioned it on the main channel. We did the fans react the day
hmm
after the game, and everybody just ignored me talking about it, because I think the thing is you've got to call people out when they've made a mistake. George, is somebody that gives 100% every single game, but you can't let players off and just say, "Oh well, yeah, it's
and
George, so it's fine. We'll let him off."
I think
But
that's the thing for me. That's the difference between valid criticism and scapegoating, is that if you can accept that everybody in the team's making mistakes, and you assign blame, or you start to bring up those issues as and when they arise, fine, because that's a fair criticism of everybody watching football. We're all entitled to our opinion, and we're all entitled to express that opinion, as long as we do so in a relatively respectful manner. I think is
yeah,
important to always say. It's where, there are noticeable issues. For example, both goals potentially coming down the right hand side, and still it's Larouci getting the blame for everything that's going on. And you think, wait a minute, there is something there. And a lot of it comes down to the fact that he's new. If you're new, we've got an emotional connection to George Baldock. I
yeah,
love George Baldock. He's been a
same.
fantastic player for United, been one of our best players consistently since he's joined the club. He's been awesome.
Probably the most consistent
Yeah,
player, one of the most consistent players we've possibly ever had.
yeah. And when you say consistent, that's even in the games and the seasons when we were rubbish. It was never George who was rubbish. We had issues everywhere else, but Baldock was never the problem. And he's still not the problem now, but he did have a couple of bad moments in that game. That's fine. It happens to everybody. And so that's the thing for me, is the difference between valid criticism and scapegoating comes when it's one person's fault, regardless of what happens, as compared to recognizing the mistakes as and when they come.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on. Let's move
Yeah,
on,
because we
because there's
got
a lot
we
more
got
players that we've
stuck
got to
on that
talk.
for a while, and we've only talked about like one signing.
I know. Let's try and fly through them. We've next got Cameron Archer. We've kind of already touched on Cameron Archer. We think
Come on.
he's very good, and we think he's going to be continue to be very, very good. And we both agree that he's very small.
Yeah. Basically, what else is there to say apart from Cameron Archer? I love you. You're going to be the best player in the league. The reincarnation, the regen for original R9. Let's
And
go.
like, is that not one of the? That's almost like Janoga Fjortov's airplane. Like,
Yeah,
is there
it's
anything
iconic.
better than? Oh, it's so good. It's such a good. Even when he scored 2 goals against us last season, through gritted teeth, I was thinking that's a really good celebration. That
It's cool, that. Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
it's
But also,
cold,
it's
as the
not one that
kids say
anybody can
these
get away
days.
with. You know what I mean? I'm not seeing McBurney do it because, everyone, what's McBurney doing?
Yeah, what
Whereas,
an idiot!
he's got a, yeah, I like him. I
Does he
like
think
him a
he's
lot.
Legolas from Lord of the Rings or something? What's he doing
Yeah,
up there?
what does he think he's doing over there? That bloody McBurney. Get back
Talking
and
about
hit corners away.
scapegoats. Let's move on to talk about Luke Thomas. We've again touched on him a little bit. I think we think that he will take Larouci's place, whether
Look,
Larouci is injured or not.
thought when
Um,
he came on, looked a real step up. I thought he looked faster. I thought he looked fitter. I thought he looked more ready for the level. I thought he looked physically developed. I think there is a question. I thought he played really well, but twice in the game, he did something that, if he continues to do it, could cause us problems. He followed his man all the way across to the right wing. Now, both times he did it, he won the tackle. But if you do that and your man beats you, or your man plays the pass and somebody comes behind you, you're in a real mess. And so I think positionally, we might look to do something to try and stop him doing it to quite that extent. But other than that, I thought he looked outstanding.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. I don't remember him doing that, but I do remember seeing him on the right and thinking, what's
Yeah.
he doing on the right?
Chased his man all the way. And I think he did win the tackle. And so just stayed over there marking his man as if he'd just done man to man marking, like I would at five-a-side, just following wherever he goes. But yeah, it's positionally a little bit of a worry that he might get carried away into doing that. Worked out for us the other day. And like I say, I'm still excited about him. I expect him to be our first choice. And to be honest, I think he looks a step up on anybody who's played that position so far this season. And we've had lots of people play it because of our injuries.
Well, I think that Max Lowe, I think what he's really bad at is not going to his man, not going and getting stuck in. He sits off and lets them play in front of him. And sometimes that's okay. But I think Larouci coming in, that's one of his really strong points is, like you say,
Yeah.
nicking the ball, get intercepting, getting his breaking away. And that's what I like about Larouci. But let's not talk about Larouci anymore. What I want to say, I don't want to get on more of a tangent. I just want to ask you one quick question. Did you notice Anel following a player? I can't remember who it was, but he was all over. Like at one point, he just followed his man all the way back to like he was a striker, like he was marking the defender, and he left his space completely. And I was like, I understand man marking and things like that, but
Yeah.
for your centre back to do it, I found it really odd. Let us know in the comments. Ollie, by his face, I know that he doesn't know what I'm talking about.
No
So
idea
let
at
us
all.
know in the comments if you saw that and if you knew what he was doing. Because again, I was a little bit. The thing is, when I'm doing the match reactions, I look
Yeah.
like I am not enjoying the game. I am not into it at all because I'm on my phone typing notes in. Because you need, yeah, it's like something's happened.
Yeah.
You just got
Oh,
to do
something
it,
else happened.
and
What was it? Dad, quick.
yeah. Tell me what happened so I can write it in my
Yeah.
notes.
Quick, check
Uh,
BBC commentary and see what happened.
yeah.
No, I
Let's
didn't
talk. Let's.
notice that. I have to admit, I didn't. I did think though, and it's worth pointing out, I thought Anel was fantastic when he moved to the central. Thought
Yes.
he handled Beto. I just thought he really got hold of him where Egan had struggled because of his injury, and we'd seen Beto getting more and more involved in the game. Thought when Anel came on, he just managed that out of the game as well, and really meant that we could start to put pressure on rather than just absorbing it.
Yeah, I thought Anel was fantastic against Spurs last season when he went to central centre back as well. I
Mm,
think he's really, really good
suits
at
him.
that position. And the thing is, because you've got Egan there, and I know Egan's had a couple of blips this season with some goals being his fault. I just feel like Enel's not doing the job that he did last season. He's not
No,
flying forward at will. And I understand why he's not, but I do want to see him do that a little bit more. Whether Ollie Norwood comes and sits in for him and he
Souza.
goes flying forward with George, 1-2s and all that. And he is getting forward a little bit. And he did get forward more against Everton than
Yeah.
I'd seen him do in the first three games. So hopefully we see a bit more from that because Anel for me, he is so dangerous when he gets forward. I want to see more of that. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. Last man, James McAtee, Ollie. Do you think, because I got all excited about us signing James McAtee, loved him last season, scored lots and lots of important goals for us at the back end of the season.
Yep.
I always was saying, I don't know, because is he physical enough for the Premier? Is he going to get knocked about? Is he going to um, fizzle out of games and stuff. And I got completely taken away with the fact that we've signed him, and I'm really
Yeah.
excited for him. And I think he will be good, but he's not going to have as much of an impression on games as he did last season. Do you think James McAtee is a good signing?
Do I think he's a good signing? Yes. Really like him. Came up clutch towards the end of last season. Thought he had a real impact. And it's really exciting to get a player like him back again because I think it's important that when players have contributed as much as he did to promotion, you want to try and keep those players together as much as you can. Where I'm having some difficulty, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this or listening to this will have a completely different opinion to me, and that's perfectly fine. But it comes back for me to what we were talking about earlier is that Ollie Norwood for me has to play at the moment because we've not got anybody else who can play his position. Vinny Souza has to play because he's physical, he's big, he's strong, plays the destroyer role. Gus Harmer is better than James McAtee. And I don't mean that in a rude way. It's not disparaging to McAtee to suggest that at this stage of their career because of McAtee's age. I'm not saying he won't go on to be better, but right now,
Mm.
Harmer is going to more consistently impact games at this level. So where does McAtee play? Is a real issue I've
Does he
got. And
play
so,
off the striker?
but instead of who? Do we drop Cameron Archer?
We don't drop either of them, but what I'm trying to say is, I don't want to say this too loud
You're not
because
going
I
to
don't
suggest
want
we
this
play
to
back four,
happen.
aren't we?
No, 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 no. I'm touching wood, touching my head right now. Ollie Mack's not got the best injury record, and that does worry me because we don't have another. We should have definitely got another striker, whether it's someone on a free, someone that's played a load of games in the Premier League, maybe a bit past it. We
Yeah,
just needed somebody extra. One, maybe a big man, maybe like a Kiefer Moore, like
Kiefer
some have
Moore.
suggested.
I
And I
love
know
Kiefer Moore.
wages come into it, and we can't really. I don't know who we can afford and who we can't. But
So,
I feel like we needed a striker rather than maybe another midfielder. I'm not saying not bringing McAtee. I'm saying maybe not have signed Tom Davis. Was that a mistake? Maybe.
so there's something I've really struggled with about the transfer window, and I seem to use that phrase a lot. Apparently, I'm always really struggling. And to be honest, if you've met me in real life, you know that is in fact the truth. I never have my stuff together, and so for me, one of the things though about this transfer window at the start of it, if you remember the communication, if you remember the messaging, we've not got loads of money. We're not going to be signing loads of big name players, but what we are going to do is we're going to use the money we've got to power it into high value loan players. We're going to make sure that the loan players who come in are going to have a significant impact on the first 11 and are going to be used to make us raise our level. Now, the two domestic loan players that we've signed since then are Luke Thomas and James McAtee. Now, I've already spoken that I like Thomas. I think he's better than LaRuche. I think he will go on to be a very serviceable player in that position. I like James McAtee. I think he was great last season. Thought he had a real impact on us and why we got promoted. He's a huge part of that. But I don't think anybody is going to argue that those two players conclusively improve our first 11 from what it was last season. And when everybody's fit, I'm not entirely sure that either of them get into our first 11. To me, that is completely different to what the messaging was at the start of the summer. Some people will say we've spent more money. We have spent more money, but we've spent the money that we earned from selling and Diane Burger. So I think the budget wise, everything's the same apart from we spent the money that we got for sales. And so these two high value loans that we were expecting should have still had the budget for. And if Davies has come in to replace a high value loan, then instead of getting two players high value loans to increase the level of our starting 11, we've instead got three players who are going to sit on our bench. And I don't understand quite who's made the decision about how to prioritize money, how to prioritize the signings, or if I'm completely misreading the situation and I've got it wrong. But that's what I struggle with. So I like McAtee. I'm glad that we've signed him. I'm very excited about the fact he's come back. But I'm concerned as to if we were trying to spend a big budget on two loans, what happened to that? What went wrong in our process to end up here with these two that
Well,
we've got?
the the thing is with the loans, you have to bring in players that are unobtainable for us to sign. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not saying that we can afford James McAtee. We can certainly afford Luke Thomas. But I'm not saying that we can afford James McAtee because
no,
City obviously
we
rate him
can't.
very highly. But the reason why you bring in these loan players is to strengthen the top of the pitch because that's where you spend most of your money. Like the obviously in the last couple of seasons with Declan Rice and players like this, other positions are getting
Yeah,
inflated, but strikers are at a premium.
always.
There's not many strikers that you can sign for for 20 million who's done it in the Premier League for years. So like we needed to spend a lot of wages on these high value attacking players. We shouldn't have wasted it on a left wing back. I'm not saying wasted because I think Luke Thomas will be very good.
And also, we needed him because of the injuries. I understand as well
Yeah, we
that the
did. We did.
situation changed, is why we brought in
But
Luke Thomas. And I do get it, but there is still a question mark over what happened to the others.
in let me say, in my opinion, Luke Thomas, I'm not undermining him at all here, but he's not on the tip of everybody's tongue. It's not like everybody was falling over themselves to try and sign him. Leicester don't want him. Clearly, they've got other players in that position. They didn't think that Luke Thomas fit in their
Mhm.
team. And I'm not saying that he's not good enough for Leicester in the Championship. I'm just saying that he didn't fit how they wanted to play
Yeah.
football. So if we offer 5 million for Luke Thomas, surely they would probably take that. So why didn't we try and sign Luke Thomas for a small amount? I say small amount, but you know what I mean. In
Yeah.
the grand scheme of things, in the Premier League, 5 million is nothing. And then use the rest of use the other loan up for somebody that's going to affect the top of the pitch.
Yeah. I think that's the thing for me. We really should have. I think there was a better use of our loans than what we've done. Now, and again, that's not meant to be, and I don't want anyone to take it as if I'm saying I didn't want McAtee. I did want McAtee. I'm excited about McAtee. But I just think that if you're going to bring in these loans, they have to be, at the very minimum, guaranteed first team starters. And I don't think either of the loans that we've brought in can say that that's true.
No, agreed. Anyway, let's stop all this because we've gone very negative, and now I want to do the quiz.
There'll
Quiz,
be that
quiz,
one
quiz,
guy. There'll be
quiz.
that one guy in the comments again just going,
Yeah. Or there'll be that one guy that actually celebrates when we do the quiz.
yeah,
Because
I love
most
that
people
guy. He's
probably
the
won't care.
best. Love that guy. I love any of you. Anybody who gets in there celebrating the quiz. And
It's
now
like
nobody celebrates the quiz and is actually turned off. We've got complaints.
it's
We've had
it's
and cancelled.
it's like Battle of the Cities last season. We enjoyed it. Most people didn't.
No, but
Right.
by the end of the season, we had lots of people in on the Battle of the Cities, and I think we'll have the
Yeah.
same now. By the end of the season, everybody's gonna be like, quiz.
Let's hope so. Right, let's start it because we are many, many minutes into this podcast. We are
We
running
are.
well behind time. So, this quiz is about signings. The following players that I'm going to go through, I want
Okay.
you to tell me who their first club was. First clubs for new signings. But I'm
Come
going to give you
on.
four options on every one. Four options on every one. Some are going to be easy, some are going to be hard. Right. First one, Cameron Archer. First club, was it Aston Villa? Was it Solihull Moors? Was it Walsall? Or was it West Bromwich Albion? I've been a bit dirty
I
there, haven't I?
think he loaned to Solihull or to somebody like that. So his first club, Aston Villa.
Ooh, still Aston Villa? Are you sure?
So he came through the academy at Villa. They
You're right.
loaned him to Solihull. So his first club was
You're
still Villa.
right. You are right. This is also going to test if you've watched all Hal's transfer videos as well. Anyway, number two, Gus. Gus. Feyenoord. Dordrecht. Did I say it? PEC Zwolle. PSV Eindhoven. I'll give you a clue. It was in Holland, his first club.
Oh, thanks. That's really narrowed it down, mate. I really appreciate that because after you'd named 4 Dutch clubs, I really thought, oh, I wonder what country he's come from.
Could be Germany.
Feyenoord.
Yes. Very good. 2 out of 2. They do get harder though. So let's go next. Vinny Souza.
Play the game, lad. Come on.
Right. You ready?
Yeah.
Lamel. I don't know how you say that. It's definitely not that, but
Is it not Lommel?
It's definitely not Lommel.
Lommel. I
Don't
think
be
it's Lommel. Lommel.
Lommel. Flamengo. Vasco da Gama. Mechelen.
You see, that's such a variety because they're not all in the same country.
There's 2 in the same country. There's 2 in different countries.
Yeah. Yeah. Vasco da Gama.
Oh, So close. Flamengo.
Knew it
Do
was
you
one
know
of the
what?
Brazilians.
I messed that up because I put two Brazilian clubs in there, and it was always going to be one of the two
Yeah, and
for
I
me.
50-50
But
shot. And
you messed it
also,
up.
I like saying Vasco da Gama. They're really good for Wonder Kids on Football Manager, and therefore, if in doubt, Vasco da Gama.
Exactly. He did play for the other two teams, Michelin and
I
Memel.
did know that he'd played for them too, but I didn't think they were his first. I assumed he'd started in Brazil. Um, and so it was a 50-50 hit, let's be honest.
There you go. Now, next one. Austin Trusty. The player that we've seen absolutely nothing of. Well, actually, you have, haven't you? Lincoln.
Yeah, he played. He was actually all right, to be honest. I thought he did pretty well. I think going forwards, he wasn't exactly Jack O'Connell in terms of his overlapping, but he might get used to the system. But I actually thought he was really solid, and I do think that we should see more of him. Hopefully, I'm shocked that he's not been starting games. But anyway, you need
Yeah.
to give me some options because it's one of the American ones, and I'll know it when you say it. I think.
Oh, really? Okay. So, Houston Dynamos, Colorado Rapids, Bethlehem Steel, Philadelphia Union.
I won't know it when you say it.
Well, I've definitely said it.
Philadelphia
You don't
Union.
know it. No.
Is it Colorado?
He did play. No.
No, that's all right. I don't mind being wrong then.
Well, as I was saying those options, I was thinking Bethlehem Steel. Why would I have said them if it wasn't
It
them?
wasn't that.
And
Yeah,
it
but
was Bethlehem
the
Steel.
trouble is that in this game, like in the last one, like why has he said Vasco da Gama if it's not them? You know what I mean? I can always apply that logic to somebody.
No, but Vasco da Gama are a well-known team in Brazil. So
They are.
Flamengo,
Yeah,
I
but
threw them in there.
Bethlehem Steel. Oh, mama.
I thought they were in Israel, to be honest, but clearly not. Clearly, they are
No,
in
I mean
America.
America in it.
America, in it.
All I've
Yeah.
got to offer.
He
America in
has
it.
played for Philadelphia Union and Colorado Rapids, but his
That's
first team was.
I knew he'd played for them, and that was why they were my two guesses. And then as soon as you said no to both, I was like, oh right, okay, fair enough. I don't mind being wrong in that case.
I I threw Houston Dynamos in there because they were another US team that I knew that wasn't. I'm going to put LA Galaxy. I'm like, no, there's no point in putting that.
Nah, doesn't mean a waste of
Anyway,
everybody's time, mate.
so 2 out of 2. No, two
Two
out
out
of
of four.
four. Final one is Yasa Larucci. We've not mentioned him much on this podcast.
No, we barely spoke
No.
about him, to be honest. What are your thoughts? No.
So, Troyes,
No.
Nance, Liverpool, Aldershot Town.
I'm really annoyed that Liverpool's an option because I know he was in the Liverpool Academy, but surely Liverpool signed him from somebody. And I think surely they signed him from Nantes because he got relegated at Troyes, went to the Liverpool Academy. Liverpool signed him from somewhere. They signed him from Nantes. He just came through at
Liverpool,
Liverpool.
first team. I'm going to say that these are all the first teams on Wikipedia. So we're not talking about youth teams. We're talking first club. I'm not going to go, oh, did he play for Beta Magpies under fives? I'm not going to look at that. I'm looking
Not
at the
even
first
researching his questions, guys. Come
the first
on.
the first professional club that he played
No,
for,
you're
man,
right. I should have gone
is
Liverpool.
Liverpool.
I just thought myself out of it, and it's my own fault. It's my brain's problem, not the question master. I will never question the authority of the man who owns the questions. I should always give full credit to the question master who is right in all scenarios.
His youth career was Madrile Chateaubriand. Then it was Le Havre, and then it was Liverpool, and then his first senior team was Liverpool, even though he didn't play any games for them in the league, because I know he did in the cup. So
Yes, fair enough.
there you
So I was
go.
right that he came through a French academy. I'll take it.
Well, yeah, of
I'll take
course.
it.
He
I'll
is
run with that.
French. So that's it. You got 2 out of 5.
I swear I'm getting worse. I swear I'm getting worse at these week on week.
It was hard, but I thought you might have used logic on some
Oh,
of them because you've done that to me before.
I have,
But
but you
sometimes you
know,
use logic and then go against your own logic.
yeah, I talk myself out of stuff all the time. I'm like, oh, here's a really interesting, really well thought out point. Let's do something else. Um, just for fun, innit?
It's just for fun in it. Now, let's move on. We're not doing the quiz anymore. First
Ooh,
four games, we've touched on a few bits and bobs, but I want
yeah,
to get your quick fire answers to
quick
these.
fire,
So, best player from the first four games.
Baldock.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
Consistently over the four. Best individual performance, probably Gum at Burnley on Saturday against Everton.
Very good. Very good. I would put Harmer up there because
Mm,
I think he does a lot of off the ball work that
yeah,
and carries the ball well as well. So I think the things that are the hardest things he does,
yeah,
and sometimes he doesn't get all the credit for it. Obviously, he scored a fantastic goal,
he did.
and he set up McBurney to set up Cameron Archer against Everton. But yeah, I think that he does a lot of stuff that people don't see. Sometimes he makes an odd mistake in midfield, but like I'd rather see players take chances, and I certainly think he's one of those. And I think we'll get a lot of joy out of him this season.
Yeah, I agree.
Worst player, we've got to say it.
Yasser in it.
Aw, don't be that
I
guy.
don't mean that in any kind of disrespect. I know. I think it's a really difficult one. But yeah, I
Are you
think if I was
scapegoating him?
picking, yeah, I am. Get him out.
To be fair, I don't think there's anyone else. You could possibly
And
put Egan a bit in there because he's made a lot of errors that have led to goals. And I love Egan. I think Egan's a very very good player, but I don't think he's had a very good start to the season.
no, I think he's had a poor start to the season. And like you say, I don't think anybody deserves to be called out at this stage. I think I would say, generally speaking, that everybody has given the squads and the teams that we've been putting out. Everybody has done as much as can be expected of them, and nobody deserves to be hung out or wrung out or any of that kind of stuff for what they've done so far. But objectively answering the question, I think Larouche, if I was scoring the players, would probably come out towards the lower end of the squad.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
that
Move
is
on.
as political as I can be about it.
I like it. I like it. I probably shouldn't have asked the question, but at the end of the day, we're just having a bit of fun on a podcast. Most surprising in a good way. So, most surprising player that you didn't expect to play as well as what he has done up to now.
Difficult question. And I think I've got three players in mind. I think, first of all, deserving a shout out, Asula and Traore. I think both of them were really given basically a hiding to nothing. They weren't really given much of a chance in terms of being able to come into a settled team, in terms of being able to come in and make an impact that we would expect for players of their level, at their age, at their development time. And so I think they both didn't do anything at all to embarrass themselves or cause any kind of problems for me in their games together up front. Thought particularly against Man City at times, Traore had a decent impact as well. So I think, both of those really pleasantly surprised. The person I'm going to name, though, is Jack Robinson, left centre back. He's kept Trusty out of the team, and I think he's been consistently a really strong, solid defender, possibly our best defender, to be honest, in terms of consistency across the back three of Anel, Egan, and Jackie.
I agree with you. I will throw another person in there. And I think a lot of people will be like, why are you putting him in there? But Vinny Souza, because that position is very
I like
difficult
it.
for someone to come into a brand new league, especially the Premier
Yeah.
League, because it's so easy to come in there, be a bit slow, be a bit off it, lose the ball a lot. He doesn't give the ball away.
No, I like him.
And he just doesn't make many mistakes, and I just think he's hit the ground running. Even when he was cramping up at Forest, I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch.
Getting
So
carried off
yeah,
against City. That like he
yeah.
can't move his legs anymore. Just carry him off.
Do you know what? As well, every time we concede or somebody gives the ball away, someone gives a free kick, he's so emotional on the pitch.
Yeah,
He's like, no, like everything's the worst thing in the world. And I love that about him. He seems really, really passionate. And I
I
think
like him.
if we can stay up, I think he'll have a long blades career until somebody takes him
Or
off
he'll
our
be
hands.
worth
Like,
some money. He'll
yeah,
be worth
yeah,
some money.
yeah. No, really, really like the guy. I've put surprising in a bad way. Someone who's not quite been
Maybe
as good as
Egan.
what we expected. Maybe Egan, yeah. I thought Max Lowe was pretty poor before he got injured.
I think it's harsh. I think I'd go for the defence. I think, generally speaking, for the start to the season, one of the things I've been confident about all the way through the summer, I spoke about it on the Forest and on the Everton pods that I did with their fans, were both, I was saying, we'll not concede many goals. We're going to be really defensively compact. It's going to be really hard to break us down. I don't believe that's actually been the case that much. I think defensively, we have been quite open. We've conceded two twice and well, no, we've conceded two, three times, haven't we? And so I think that shows that defensively we are just not on it at the level that we need to be at the moment. So I would say the biggest surprise for me is how defensively weak we've been so far. I think we really need to work on that and make sure that when we come back from this national break, we do what we do best, which is focus on keeping that defensive unit solid.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And the last one is I've put favourite game in there, but it's all been a bit tough, hasn't it, this season? I really enjoyed Man City, I'll be honest, even though we ended up coming away
That
with nothing.
it's the moment.
Bogle's goal was a big, big moment, and the roof just came off. Yeah.
So good. So that moment, 100%, you have to honour that and say 100% the best moment of the season. I think the best game, I mean, I'm going to throw it out there, us against Everton, I think was just an unbelievable watch. Like, take the emotion of being a United fan out of it and the tenseness and the excitement and the atmosphere. I think as a neutral, I would happily sit and watch a game like that. I thought it was a really good game.
Yeah, and I said on the Fans React that I think that if Everton play like that for the rest of the season, they won't go down. I think they
No,
battled for everything. And I think that if Daesh gets that mentality through to the players, I think that they will cause a lot of problems for a lot of teams this season.
agreed. I think
Um,
the
I,
biggest
I
thing for
expected
me,
them. I expected them to be worse than what they were.
yeah, I thought they were going to be rubbish and they just weren't at all. I think the biggest thing for me is in terms of what's surprising is that everybody's massive. Like every team we play against, they're absolutely huge. Like you
Yeah.
saw Palace when they came first game, and I said, oh, they're a quintessential team. They'll finish about 13th. They know they've built a squad that's just not going to be in a relegation battle. Look at how big and strong and physical they are. Then you play Man City and you go, oh, I thought they were little lads who passed it to each other and were easy to get bullied. When did they become this 6 foot group of monsters that just physically dominate you? And then we
Because
played Everton, and now we're like,
Pep loves to play about 1 million centre backs, so obviously they're all going to be massive, aren't they?
and obviously they play route one to big man up front now as well. So they've got it all. They've got it all. And then Everton come, and you go, but these are supposed to be one of the worst teams in division. They're supposed to be like weak, and teams just bully them and run over them. They're huge and they make us look like children. And so I think that's been the thing that shocked me about the actual division is that everybody just looks so physically dominating. And it's really going to be a massive step up for us. And I think that's why Vinny Souza is such an important part of our team, is that in that midfield battle, he's the one who we can rely on to physically win his battles when maybe Norwood, maybe Hamer, maybe McAtee, if he plays, aren't going to be able to be relied upon in that same way.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're going to have to be very good ball on the floor.
Yeah,
I thought we were going to score some goals from set pieces this season
corners.
with the big lads coming up from the back, but it seems like they're the only big lads that we have. Right, let's move on now and let's talk about a few little bits and bobs that
Way too into
I've
that.
written down. First, I want you to give Joe a shout out for cardiac risk in the young.
So he's walked the 72, and what that means is he's been walking or cycling or running the equivalent distance from each stadium to the next, all around the country. He's done some of it virtually, he's done some of it in person. If you were lucky enough to join him on his walk from Rotherham to Hillsborough and then to Bramall Lane, you will have seen that he was supported by a fantastic community of people who have been working with him throughout this process. He was originally aiming to raise money so that he could get enough to run one heart screening so that we can check for signs of early heart disease in young people. He's done so well in his work so far. He's actually raised enough for 2 of these machines to be put in place. It's just incredible work from him. Please, I think it's an absolute honour and I'm really proud to have him as part of the United Community Foundation. So if anybody sees Joe or messages him on Twitter, just give him a massive congratulations because the work he's done really has been outstanding.
It really has. And do you know what? You giving him that shout out then, when I didn't tell you that that was going to happen, I wasn't telling you that that was going to come out of my mouth. And the fact that you even got his Twitter handle, I don't know where that came from.
I'll be honest, I don't either. I just like went into like oh, he's asked me about this. Let's go. But no, I've been
Autopilot,
wanting to
boom.
talk about Joe for a while. I've been in, obviously we've just not been able to get the opportunity to have him on the channel because we've been really keen to try and push the work that he's been doing because we do think it's been outstanding. And yeah, I've clearly managed to really internalize the work that he's done, but he deserves that, and he deserves more than me just remembering it. I think we all should, and anybody who hasn't been able to reach out or hasn't seen what he's been doing, if you find it on his Twitter page, you can find it on mine as well. I've been retweeting lots of his work. I think we're also going to put a link in the description just so you can see what we're doing, and then you can always offer now to contribute. I know that he's finished, but I'm sure he would still appreciate any support that comes from our massive Sheffield United community that we've got here. And I won't say
Very,
massive
very
because we're not Wednesday fans. Come on, all.
true.
Sort yourself
Mighty,
out.
mighty.
Mighty. I'm Mighty Blades community. I'm massive. Are absolutely bigger than massive community of Sheffield United fans.
Yeah, but we couldn't take 200,000 fans to Wembley, though, could we? Like they
Oh,
can.
I mean, what chance have we got when everybody else can take 500,000 fans every time they go to Wembley? The entire population of England couldn't take as many people to Wembley as Wednesday take to Wembley. And, sometimes you've got to just put your hands up and say, if you can just gather more people going to Wembley than there are on the planet, that you just deserve the credit that you get.
Right, Ollie, we're going to move on now. It's just a few little bits and bobs. Housekeeping. Simon Moore podcast is going to be out on the Sheffield United Way very, very soon. Simon Moore was very, very good. I have edited it. Stop dancing, Ollie. I have edited it. Simon Moore is a fantastic bloke. Really, really nice man. And just a credit that we can say that we had him, and he was part of that incredible 100-point season, which,
Love,
yeah, we
love Simon Moore. I think I'm really excited to hear that. Obviously, I've not seen it yet either. I'm sure that Hal has done a fantastic job interviewing him, but I'm really excited. I love Simon Moore. Anybody who was in that 100-point season will always have a place in United folklore. But also, I think that Simon Moore really proved himself a credit to the club with a lot of the work he did in supporting some of the younger goalkeepers. He was with us a long time. And even when he'd lost his place, he always seemed like a fantastic person in the dressing room, never came in and disgraced himself, was always there and ready to be called upon. I'm really excited for it. And yeah, just next time, Hal, if you want to invite me, I'll come and do it with you.
What I will say, a little bit of a spoiler alert, what you just said there, absolutely bang on, because he clearly took George Long's place, and then
Yes.
he had his place taken by Dean Henderson and a little bit Jamal Blackman. So it's just the way of the goalkeepers, isn't it? It just happens from
Yes.
time to time. And all goalkeepers will have their place taken at some point, unless you are some superhuman goalkeeper that goes out on a high. So, yeah, Simon Moore, absolute legend, lovely man, did really, really well every time he put a Blade shirt on, and he will be on the Sheffield United Way podcast very, very soon. Billy Sharp scoring for LA Galaxy on his debut. We all love to see that, didn't we?
Yeah, things you absolutely love to see. I know it was a penalty, but it just feels like if everything in the world feels right when Billy Sharp is scoring goals. And as soon as I saw it, I just thought, yeah, okay, I'm happy now. I'm happy that I thought it was an amazing move from anyway, but now that I've seen him score and I've seen the sort of reaction and what we got on their socials and things like that, yeah, just delighted that he's managed to go there and really find what will hopefully be a really good home for him for his last few years.
Things you love to see. Thank you very much, Ollie, as always, for being here. I've had a lovely old little chat with you, and
Yeah.
let's not leave it too late to do this again.
No, I think we'll be a bit more regular, and I don't think we should be calling this a little chat because anybody who stayed with us to this point deserves a medal.
Yeah, it
Thanks,
might
guys.
not be as long. It might not be as long as what you think it's going to be. So let's try and trim it, but I don't think we'll be able to trim too much out of that. To be fair. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Hey.